So our assignment for this week is going to be a 9-mark mini essay question practice looking at the unpopularity of the Weimar government, because that's what we've been looking at over the past couple of lessons. So remember, for these they're worth 9 marks and we use the mnemonic I face, and you can see that we have face A, the face in the bottom corner, to help you remember. So I stands for introduction. In your intro, you either give a sentence of background or you can just explain there are many reasons for whatever the question is asking you, such as, and then name them, or you can do both of these things. That gets you up to 1 mark for this area, and then you move on to talk about your actual factor. In this case, we have a to what extent question in this box here. To what extent were financial problems the main reason why the Weimar government was so unpopular? And this is worth 9 marks. So we need to do our introduction, and then we use our named factor, so that's the one in the question here, as the first paragraph that we talk about. So financial problems is the first thing that we talk about, and that's what the F in I face stands for. We then need our alternatives, which is what the A stands for, and because it's a to what extent question, we have 2 alternatives that we're going to talk about. So our first one is World War I, and then our second one is political problems, and that's our I, F and an A from our I face. We are then going to do our conclusion, so you decide what out of our 3 factors here, our factor and our alternatives, is the main reason that the Weimar government was unpopular, and you just write that. So in conclusion, the main reason why the Weimar government was unpopular was, and then you name one of them. That is our conclusion, because you've made a judgment and answered the question. You then need to back this up with evidence, which is our E and our last letter, and you do this by writing a sentence where you say, I think this because, and then you give a detailed reason of explanation, the same as you would in an explanation question, to back up your conclusion. So I, F, A, C and E for I face. So when we're thinking about why the Weimar government was unpopular in terms of financial problems, we've got the fact that they were blamed for the burdens of the reparation payments, they were blamed for the hyperinflation crisis in 1923, and then unemployment after the Wall Street crash in 1929. So you would need to do a sentence about each of these, or more, 1 or 2 sentences about each of these things in that paragraph to cover the financial problems of the Weimar government. For our alternative, in World War I, we've got the fact that a lot of people were loyal to the Kaiser and they didn't want a democracy at this time. They were associated with the Treaty of Versailles and the stab Germany in the back mythology, and they were blamed for losing or surrendering World War I, and they were called the November criminals. So you would need a sentence on each of these 3 things in this paragraph as your alternative. Another alternative we have is the political problems. So we've got the fact that they seemed unable to actually control outbreaks of violence almost right from the beginning, with things like the Spartacists, the Cap and the beer hall putschs. We've got the fact that they did nothing when the French invaded the Ruhr, and we've got proportional representation leading to the weak coalition governments, and they never seem to agree, especially in times of crisis, and Article 48 allowing for emergency decrees to be made, which made democracy really look weak and a dictatorship seem like the way Germany was going. So you would talk about these things as well. So a little bit of structure for you then. That's our question. Our introduction, you can start it off with a sentence. So there are many important reasons why the Weimar government was unpopular. These include, and you can talk about that as well. Pick your things. Or you could even start it by saying the Weimar government came to power at the end of the First World War, full stop. There are many important reasons why the Weimar government was unpopular. These include, and then we write what we're talking about: financial reasons, the war, political reasons. The aim of the mini essay is to decide which one is the most important reason, something like that. Paragraph 1, your factor paragraph, is about your financial reasons, because that's the named factor. So you start it off by saying, some historians think that financial problems were the main reason why the Weimar government was unpopular because, and then you're going to talk about 2 or 3 sentences about the financial problems. Remember, you're explaining, same as in an explain question, so you're always going to link it back to the question. So if you say, for example, the reparations payments, and you give a wee bit of detail about that, you then need to say, this therefore made the Weimar government unpopular, because you're explaining how this links to the question as you go. For your alternative for World War I, you then start a new paragraph and you say, other historians think that World War I was the main reason the Weimar government was disliked so much because... Explain a little bit about World War I situation, and again make sure you're linking back to the question at each sentence of fact that you give. Then you've got your alternative 2, political problems, and same thing. Finally, other historians think that political problems were the main reason for people hating the Weimar Republic because, and after each point, remember to link it back to your question. Remember, you're trying to give a wee bit of detail, but you don't want to have too much detail that you're spending ages and ages on it. You're supposed to be able to do a mini essay in about 20 minutes, so that's what you're kind of aiming to do. In conclusion, you state, in conclusion, it can be argued that, and then you pick the one you think is the most important reason, and you finish that sentence and put a full stop. You then have to explore why you think that and explain. So you say, the reason I think this is because, or this is because, and you give your explanation of why you have selected that particular factor as the main reason Germany's Weimar government was so unpopular. So, any questions, let someone in the team know or email, and finish the mini essay and upload it for this week's assignment.